Good afternoon, I'm Gary Summers. Welcome to Mind, Body, Soul. Last week we touched on regret and mentioned the fact that it tends to focus a lot on the problem. So saying things like, I wish I had my time back, or if I could do it over and over again, things like that kind of tend to get us to focus on what the problem is.
Many times we make a decision and we beat ourselves up because it didn't work out for us and we think we made the wrong decision.
Because most people do it, and I don't know why. Maybe we hold ourselves to a higher standard than we do to other people. So just think about this statement for a moment. We always make the best decision available to us. Who makes the second best decision? So you have choice A, you have choice B. You know that choice A is the best decision. So who picks choice B? Nobody does. So that's why regrets are tend to be useless, because just because you made a decision and it didn't work out for you, it doesn't mean it was the wrong decision. It just meant it was the right decision for you at the time. Because people will say, well, if I had made this decision back then, my life would have been different, or if I had taken a different job, or if I had gone somewhere else. But at that moment, it was the right decision for you. So the first thing I say to people is, cut yourself a little bit of slack. Why we beat ourselves up over a decision, I don't know. If I've made a decision and it doesn't work out for me, what I normally say is, well, that didn't work out. So if I'm faced with something similar, I'll think about it differently. Instead of saying, how stupid was I? That was a really dumb thing to do, or it was careless, it was mindless. So the first thing we need to do is to start focusing on how to fix things rather than focusing on what went wrong.
I'm sure some people are wondering, are some regrets more common than others?
The research that I did, you would think it's the regrettable thing you did, oh, that was embarrassing, or that was a stupid thing for me to do, or what was I thinking, or how careless was I, but it's not. So here are some of the most common mistakes as documented by a researcher a number of years ago. Just listen to them and see if you can recognize a common theme. My cousin rang me on Christmas Eve and I really rushed the conversation because I was cooking. She committed suicide on Boxing Day. Not having the courage to speak up as a teen victim of sexual abuse. Listening to teachers who said I was stupid because I can't spell. After 2 degrees, was told I'm dyslexic, I'm currently on my 4th degree. That my mom died too young to see me turn from an ungrateful, truculent teenager into a person and father I hope she'd be proud of. Too scared to risk failing at something I loved, so I succeeded at something I had no passion for. Not telling someone I loved them 20 years too late now. Marrying the first person who asked because I thought no one would ever ask me. Not following my heart many times over the years and allowing my limited expectations to define my life and decisions. After reading many answers in this thread, I'm about to change that. Taking far too long to realize that everyone else in the world is also imperfect and winging it just like me. Worrying too much about what other people thought of me, trying to uphold what I thought were their beliefs.
So the common thread in all of those statements is the regret of not doing something.
And it's not regretting the things that we do. It's the researcher found that regretting the things that we don't do seem to cause the most stress. Not applying for that job, not stepping outside your comfort zone, not attempting to do something different. So that seems to be the thing that people hold back on to regret, as opposed to doing something that they thought was really, really stupid. So there are a number of things that we can do if we've done something that we regret. First thing is own it. Yes, whatever it is that happened. You made the wrong choice, said the wrong thing, went in the wrong direction. Whatever it is done. And you know what? It's over. The fact of the human condition is that you won't always choose wisely, and you won't choose in your best interest every time. Sometimes you don't have the right information. Sometimes emotions overrule your thinking. Sometimes thinking overrules your gut. You might not have enough time to consider options, or you might have pressure on you to choose a certain way or not. Whatever it is, the bottom line is that the conditions are not always optimal for anyone to make the perfect decision every time. Give yourself a break. Own it and treat yourself. The way I say to people, treat yourself the same way you treat someone you love. And sometimes that's the greatest human fear is failure or rejection. The greatest need is success and acceptance. So we tend to kind of hold ourselves up to higher standards. But if you had a friend who did the similar thing that you would do, you would have great advice for them. You would be kinder to them. Mm-hmm. So be kind to yourself, because you're already a whole person as it is. Secondly, learn from it. Take an objective view of what happened. Why did you decide what you did? This is not an opportunity to bash yourself, but rather to examine the event critically. You can learn a lot about how you made decisions by trying to understand what went wrong. Do you need to do a better job next time of gathering information? Do you need more time to think something through? Are you unduly influenced by others? Note what you need to do differently the next time you have a decision to make. Because Albert Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right? Mm-hmm. So when we make statements like, I should have known better, that tends to be problematic because should is an irrational thought. Write out what you would like. One of the things that I always suggest to people is, set your daily goals, set your weekly goals, set your yearly goals. If you regret a lost or found relationship, a career choice, a financial decision, an educational experience, then instead of focusing on what if I had, focus on what I want. One of the best questions you could ever ask yourself is, what do I want? Because when I get people come in to see me, I ask them that question, what do you want? And they'll always tell me what they don't want. They don't want this house, they don't want this car, they don't want this job, they don't want this relationship. So when you focus on what you don't want, that becomes paramount and in your face all the time. And your brain can only focus on one thing at a time. So when your brain is focusing on what you don't want, it can't focus on what you want. So trying to figure out what exactly you want. So you didn't go to the school of your dreams. How can you structure a plan to take classes or become involved at the school you did go to? Paint a picture in as much detail. Visualize exactly what you want. Become entranced by today. We hear talk about, living in the moment, living in now, and that's really difficult when you've got a problematic life. But if you have a reason to get out of bed in the morning, if you have a passion, if you have something to look forward to, then that makes your day-to-day living so much easier. Make a plan for something you can do that might help to cancel out what went wrong. If you keep driving with your eyes on what you've left behind, you are bound to eventually crash. Take the steps to get your eyes back on the road and see the scenery of today and focus on where you're going.
I came across an article by Bronnie Ware, and I'd like to really dig deep into this article because it really focuses on regrets.
Bronnie Ware was a palliative care nurse who documented the journey she walked with the many patients who are facing the last months, weeks, moments of their lives. And this is her story. For many years I worked in palliative care. My patients were those who had gone home to die. Many incredibly special times were shared. I was with them for the last 3 to 12 weeks of their lives. People grew a lot when they were faced with their own mortality. I learned never to underestimate someone's capacity for growth. Some changes were phenomenal. Each experienced a variety of emotions as expected: denial, fear, anger, remorse, more denial, and eventually acceptance. Every single patient found their peace before they departed. Every one of them. When questioned about any regrets they had or anything they would do differently, common themes surfaced again and again. Based around this article, Bronnie has released a full-length book entitled The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, A Life Transformed by the Dearly Departed. It is a memoir of her own life and how it was transformed through the regrets of the dying people she cared for. This inspiring memoir is available internationally through Hay House, with translations into 29 languages. Now, we're going to talk about the top 5 regrets that she noticed with her palliative care patients. And this is not to be negative. This is more to make people aware that these are the most 5 common. And if you feel yourself resonating, if you feel you can relate to any of these 5, well, now is the time to do something about it. First one, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. This was the most common regret of all. When people realize that their life is almost over and look back clearly on it, it is easy to see how many dreams have gone unfulfilled. And we talked about that earlier. We talked about the biggest regret wasn't the things that we did that we were ashamed of. It's the things that we didn't do. It's that path that we didn't take. Most people had not honored even a half of their dreams and had to die knowing that it was due to choices they had made or not made. It is very important to try and honor at least some of your dreams along the way. From the moment that you lose your health, it is too late. health brings a freedom very few realize until they no longer have it. So I came across this article, and I think it'd be great to read it. It's called The Paradox of Our Time, and this is the way it goes.
The paradox of our time in history is that we have taller buildings but shorter tempers, wider freeways but narrower points of view. We spend more but have less. We buy more but enjoy less. We have bigger houses and smaller families, more conveniences but less time. We have more degrees but less sense, more knowledge but less judgment, more experts, yet more problems, more medicine, but less wellness. We drink too much, smoke too much, spend too recklessly, laugh too little, drive too fast, get too angry, stay up too late, get up too tired, read too little, watch TV too much, and pray too seldom. We have multiplied our possessions but reduced our values. We talk too much, love too seldom, and hate too often. We've learned how to make a living, but not a life. We've added years to life, not life to years. We've been all the way to the moon and back, but have trouble crossing the street to meet a new neighbor. We conquered outer space, but not inner space. We've done larger things, but not better things. We've cleaned up the air. It is a time when there is much in the showroom and nothing in the stockroom. Remember, spend some time with your loved ones, because they are not going to be around forever. Remember, say a kind word to someone who looks up to you in awe, because that little person soon will grow up and leave your side. Remember to give a warm hug to the one next to you, because that is the only treasure you can give with your heart, and it doesn't cost a cent. Remember to say I love you to your partner and your loved ones, but most of all, mean it. A kiss and an embrace will mend hurt when it comes from deep inside of you. Give time to love. Give time to speak. Give time to share the precious thoughts in your mind.
Now that really says a lot about today, doesn't it? And life seems to get in the way. So number 4, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. This came from every male patient that Bronnie nursed. They missed their children's youth and their partners' companionship. Women also spoke of this regret, but as most were from an older generation, many of the female patients had not been breadwinners. Of all the men I nursed, deeply regretted spending so much of their lives on the treadmill of a work existence. By simplifying your lifestyle and making conscious choices along the way, it is possible to not need the income that you think you do, and by creating more space in your life, you become happier and more open to new opportunities, ones more suited to your new lifestyle. The third one, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Many people suppress their feelings in order to keep peace with others. As a result, they settle for a mediocre existence and never became who they were truly capable of becoming. Many developed illnesses related to the bitterness and resentment they carried as a result. A great book to read is When the Body Says No, and it's a book, I can't remember the author now, and she talks about withholding of feelings can create all kinds of physical stress in your body. And so let me just talk a couple of things about feelings. Number 1 is to learn to express your feelings in a proper way, to be constructive with your feelings. So if someone says something to you that you perceive to be negative, many people withhold that, and that turns into resentment and anger and hatred and frustration, and eventually that's going to manifest itself somehow with some type of an illness. And we've all done it, and I don't know if we feel as though maybe we shouldn't get angry or we shouldn't express our feelings, but the author of this book really said, one of the best gifts you can give yourself is to learn to constructively express your feelings. And the second thing about it is to use your feelings as your emotional guidance system. If you're not feeling right, then there's something not working. You're not in balance. So it's really important to act on your feelings, to do something about it. And so use those feelings as an emotional guidance system. And anytime I talk to people, I always say to them, make sure you express your feelings. We can't control the reactions of others. However, although people may initially react when you change the way you are by speaking honestly, in the end, it raises the relationship to a whole new and healthier level. Either that or it releases the unhealthy relationship from your life. Either way, you win. So, you want to hang around with people who support your direction in life. You want to hang around with people who are positive, who help you. And when people come to see me in my practice, one of the things I say is, have you told anybody that you're going to do some alternative therapy? And they say, yes, I mentioned. And I say, how did those people react when you told them that? And they said they were very positive. And so what I say to people is just be very careful about who you decide to run something by, because if you talk to the wrong person or say, well, I'm going to do Reiki or I'm going to do hypnotherapy, and that person doesn't understand, then they're going to give you a negative view of it from their own limited perspective. I had a young kid. He was 24 years old, and he was 490 pounds and living at home. He was a computer programmer. And he wanted to lose some weight, and we came in, we did our first session, and I sent him away with a practice CD, and he was so enthusiastic, and you could see the light just lighting up in his eyes because he could see the direction that he was taking. And when he came in for his actual hypnotherapy session, I could sense there was something off. And I said, you don't seem as enthusiastic as when you left. And he said, when I told my parents what I was doing, they said that was a waste of time and a waste of money. Now, his parents didn't mean any harm to him. They always wanted the best for him, but they made a decision and talked about something that they didn't know anything about. Those little voices in your head that say, well, why are you doing that? If I were you, this is what I'd do. And when you don't trust yourself, when you feel as though you have to go to other people to solicit their advice or to get their approval to do something, you will inevitably come across naysayers who will always find something wrong with something that they don't understand. And when you don't understand something, your conscious mind kicks in and does the exact opposite. And that's what happens when we don't trust ourselves into doing the thing. So one of the best gifts that I say to people is to learn to trust yourself. So we convince ourselves that life will be better after we get married, have a baby, then another. Then we get frustrated that the kids aren't old enough, and we'll be more content when they are. After that, we're frustrated that we have teenagers to deal with. We will certainly be happy when they are out of that stage. We tell ourselves that our life will be complete when our spouse gets his act or her act together. When we get a nicer car, when we are able to go on a nice vacation, or when we're retired. The truth is, there's no better time to be happy than right now. If not now, then when? Your life will always be filled with challenges. It's best to admit this to yourself and decide to be happy anyway. Happiness is the way. Happiness is your birthright. So treasure every moment that you have, and treasure it more because you shared it with someone special. Special enough to spend your time with. And remember that time waits for no one. So stop waiting. Number 4, and this is a really important one, and I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Often they would not truly realize the full benefits of old friends until their dying weeks, and it was not always possible to track them down. Many had become so caught up in their own lives that they had let golden friendships slip by over the years. There were many deep regrets about not giving friendships the time and effort that they deserved. Everyone misses their friends when they are dying. It is common for anyone in a busy lifestyle to let friendships pass. But when you are faced with your approaching death, the physical details of life fall away. People do want to get their financial affairs in order if possible, but it is not money or status that holds the true importance for them. They want to get things in order more for the benefit of those they love. Usually, though, they are too ill and weary to ever manage this task. It all comes down to love and relationships in the end. That is all that remains in the final weeks. And I read an article, and they talked about the secret to longevity, and there were 10 things. They followed people like for 50 years. It was a longevity study, and besides, your health and cholesterol and blood pressure and disease, The top two for the secret to longevity is a loving relationship and a healthy friendship. Those were the top two. So when we talk about friendships, I came across this lesson on perspective, and I thought it really bodes well. And it goes like this. It's entitled To Realize.
So before I read the poem, I want you to imagine this. Just imagine there is a bank that credits your account each morning with $86,400. It carries over no balance from day to day. Every evening deletes whatever part of the balance you failed to use during the day. What would you do? Draw out every cent, of course. Each of us has such a bank. Its name is time. Every morning it credits you with 86,400 seconds. No more, no less. Everyone gets the same amount. Every night it writes off as lost whatever of this you have failed to invest to good purpose. It carries over no balance. It allows no overdraft. Each day it opens a new account for you. Each night it burns the remains of the day. If you fail to use the day's deposits, the loss is yours. There is no going back. There is no drawing against the tomorrow. You must live in the present on today's deposits. Invest it so as to get from it the utmost in health, happiness, and success. The clock is running. Make the most of today. So here's the poem. To realize the value of 1 year, ask a student who failed a grade. To realize the value of 1 month, ask a mother who gave birth to a premature baby. To realize the value of 1 week, ask the editor of a weekly newspaper. To realize the value of 1 day, ask a daily wage laborer with kids to feed. To realize the value of 1 hour, ask the lovers who are waiting to meet. To realize the value of 1 minute, ask a person who missed the train. To realize the value of 1 second, ask a person who just avoided an accident. To realize the value of 1 millisecond, ask the person who won a silver medal in the Olympics. Treasure every moment that you have, and treasure it more because you shared it with someone special, special enough to spend your time. And remember that time waits for no one. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why it's called a present.
Last one. I wish that I had let myself be happier. This is surprisingly a very common one. Many did not realize until the end that happiness is a choice. They had stayed stuck in old patterns and habits. The so-called comfort of familiarity overflowed into their emotions as well as their physical lives. Fear of change had them pretending to others and to themselves that they were content, when deep within they longed to laugh properly and have stillness in their life again. When you are on your deathbed, what others think about you is a long way from your mind. How wonderful to be able to let go and to smile again, long before you are dying. So when we're on our deathbed, we're not going to think about we wished we had worked longer or we wished we had more money in the bank. We're going to think about the things that are truly important. That is your friendships, how you made the world a better place, what you did to make people feel better. And now is the time to be able to do that when you're able to do it. When you're on your deathbed, you don't have any time to do that.
Appreciate the things you take for granted.
Appreciate and do an appreciation list. Write down the people in your life that you appreciate. Appreciate the things that you've worked for. Appreciate your values, your integrity, the things that you would never compromise for anybody. I hope in some way that this resonated with some people. We spend too much time worrying about the things that are so unimportant. Life is about perspective. Life is about choice. It is your life. Choose consciously, choose wisely, choose honestly, choose happiness. I think life is about perspective. And too many times we lose perspective. A number of years ago, I read a poem called The Dash. It was written by Linda Ellis, and it's about perspective. Kirk Dearman put music to the words. On our tombstone, there's 2 dates. There's a date of birth, and there's a date of passing. In between those dates is a dash, which represents that person's life. And I thought, what a great way to end this year by playing the Dash.
There was a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He read the dates on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted first came her date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years.
Have a great new year, and we'll talk next year.
If you're interested in that song, The Dash, you can go out on the internet and Google The Dash song by Kirk Dearman, and you can download it. I think there's a cost to downloading it, but you can certainly, or go on YouTube and just listen to the song there on YouTube. Thanks very much, everybody, and I'll be back next week with another interesting guest. Bye-bye for now.